with 0 as one of the poles. You still might ask yourself, well, what can you do about income inequality? And that's a perfectly reasonable question. And as I said already, the answer to that is, well, it's an extraordinarily complicated problem to address. We don't really know how to address it. The only time it's really been successfully addressed, as far as I can tell, roughly speaking, is during the Industrial Revolution, especially in the part of the Industrial Revolution that occurred, say, after World War II in the developing world, where for one reason or another, it turned out that there were a tremendous number of high-paying industrial jobs that people could get access to without having had the good fortune of one of these positive feedback loops working for them. But those jobs are disappearing very, very, very rapidly. And one of the problems is, as far as I can tell, is that computational devices are an intelligence and conscientiousness multiplier. And that's a big problem, because the more intelligent people are already, and more conscientious people are already more likely to be tapped up on the winners side of the Pareto distribution. Then you add, if you have an IQ of 150, let's say, you have an IQ of 150, you know how to use a computer, and you live in Silicon Valley. So man, you're a deadly person, right? Because you're super fast. Let's say you're super hardworking. We could also say maybe you're super energetic and healthy, because that also seems to be a criterion that is a real important determinant of that kind of lifetime hyper success. So you're way the hell above average in IQ. You're very, very industrious. You know how to use computers. They're a massive, insanely massive effort multiplier. And then you're surrounded by people who are super smart. It's like there's a lot of things going for you, right? You're going to be moving ahead at an awful, awful rate. That's, again, why places like Silicon Valley are so damn effective, is that they're bringing people from all over the world who are like that into one place. So like Silicon Valley, I don't know if you guys know about the Indian Institute of Technology, but it's India's answer to MIT, and it's one hell of an engineering school. But a huge number of the graduates from India go to Silicon Valley and work there, mostly as entrepreneurs. And they're very good at being entrepreneurs, as it turns out. And they ship money like mad back to India, and that's part of what's driving the Indian economy. But it's just another example, is that because Silicon Valley is already full of brilliant entrepreneurial people, then more brilliant and entrepreneurial people from all over the world flock there like mad. And it's one of these cycles that spirals upward. Very, very difficult to set that up somewhere else. And once it gets going, it's an unbelievably powerful economic engine. Crazily, crazily powerful. So, okay, so what's the panoply, let's say, of predictors that we know of? Well, and so these are determinants of lifetime success, as far as I can tell. And I would think about this, because I'll tell you what it is that you need to do to be successful. Some of these things aren't so malleable, but others are things that you can work on. Well, IQ, well, that's a rough one, because there's no evidence, as far as I can tell, that you can do a damn thing about your IQ. I was just reading a paper by Dan Simon today. It's a relatively recent review. Dan Simon did the invisible gorilla stuff, and he was looking, because there's all these companies that claim that these online brain training exercises can produce cognitive improvements, and he reviewed the literature again. And I've reviewed that literature like 6 times in the last 15 years, because I keep hoping that someone will crack the problem, but it's always the same answer. It's like, you do brain training games, you get better at the game, a lot better at that game. You get slightly better at similar games, but distal games that are still heavily cognitively loaded doesn't affect your performance at all. 0, none. So the issue of how to raise IQ, man, that's a killer. No one knows how to do it. I can tell you how to stop your IQ from decreasing as you get older. That's not so bad, because it does that. Fluid IQ decreases from the time you're 20, and pretty rapidly. It's physical health is the best preventative. So exercise, physical exercise. Weirdly enough, you'd think, well, why? Well, your brain uses oxygen like mad, right? And it needs to be